pre-show. I'm Jay Skinner, and we're just getting ready for the Buyers and Sellers show today. I'm going to talk about non-manipulative selling is the way to go. And we're live. Welcome, everybody. It's 10:35 Eastern Standard Time in Indianapolis, Indiana, New York, and a lot of other places. And you're live here with me on the Buyers and Sellers show. And I thank you for being here. This is great. People are getting on. People are beginning to come along and join us. And I want to encourage you as we talk about this important topic that you'll put in your 2 cents and your comments and your thoughts about this. So what's the deal and what's precipitated this? Well, right now, I see a lot of people getting worried about sales and selling and what to do. And it's an anxious, tense type thing. And what I want to tell you, if you don't already know, is that if you come on anxious and tense as a seller, you're going to react like you do to an anxious, tense, pushy salesperson when you're a buyer. Think about that. If you're a seller, turn the table in your own mind. When someone comes on to you like that and they're hungry and over anxious and pushy and manipulative, using every trick in the book, how do you feel? So, like some people, you never had any other training. That's the way you were taught to do it. And some of you might go here and say, Jay, you got to have this, got to have that. I've had all the training. I've been through that. I've been through that training. I've done it. I've been thrown out of places being too pushy. And the funny thing is that sometimes pushy is relative. I think I'm like laid back, cool, not being pushy at all. And someone can interpret it that way just because of the difference in our personalities. And I'll put the responsibility on me and me not properly reading the situation and lowering the temperature intentionally. One of the things that I want to share with you here is it's your responsibility to control the temperature in the room. And so maybe this time together here is going to give you a chance to think through how you do that, what you do. And as we go into this year and into the future, maybe you'll make some adjustments. How about that? So as we get into this, let's don't forget the silver rule. And the silver rule is do unto your vendors how you want your customers to do unto you. For you buyers out there, think about it. Do unto your vendors as you want your customers to do unto you. Just let that sink in. And then the green rule, and this is for you sellers, do for yourself what you're asking others to pay you to do for them. Say it one more time. Do for yourself what you're asking others to pay you to do for them. Make sure that you're using your own product, that you're practicing what you preach. That's the idea. Anyway, as we go into this, this was the topic for today. And part of the inspiration was just feeling the temperature in the room of sales and businesses and people around me in different quarters, and watching the news and people telling me how things are not going so great and all that. Bottom line is that as the stress and everything builds up inside of you, when things are going not as well as they used to or as you were hoping and expected, that stress is reflected in how you behave with your customers, with your vendors, with other people. And what I'm here to do is encourage you not to let that go into those interactions, because it just messes things up. Now, you've heard this wording here mentioned before, non-manipulative selling. And this is the book that goes way back to the published in late 70s, and I picked it up late 70s, early 80s, and got to be friends with Dr. Tony Alessandra. And he's been on my show, and we've talked about this, and then now his work. It's all these behavioral work in a 4-quadrant type of business, where it helps you understand the people that you're dealing with and understand yourself. And if you'd like to know more about the depth of this understanding in his book and what he taught as some foundations for what I'm going to teach you today, go back to July 8th, 2022, the Buyers and Sellers Show. And right there's the link. And my shows are like stored on all the channels, whatever you're listening to, but it always seems like the YouTube link is so easy to find. And I'm going to just type that here in the comments so you can see this. There we go. Boom. And there we go. And there's a link for those of you that are out there. And where you see that coming in, if you want to type some comments back that way, that'll be good. And then let's see, what else do I know? That was a good show. And help you give you some background on some of the things I talk about. Anyway, this whole idea of non-manipulative selling and how to behave and work with customers. See, I don't like the word common sense, is because what's common to some people is uncommon to others. And I'm not the guy that's going to tell you, oh, I'm the king of common sense. I've just got sense, whatever it is. And if what I've got is common to you, great. If it's uncommon to you, that's great. But I always want to go further in a lesson and in teaching beyond just saying, well, it's just common sense. Because to some it is, some it's not. And that's okay. The 4 steps that'll put you in a position to be more successful, less stressed in sales is where we're going here. It's very important for us to be able to relax so that we can be at our best. You probably know about that. Being constantly at a high stress level is not good for your health, and it's not good for your wealth. Now, just imagine for a minute when we're talking about that. If you're a buyer and you're approached by a seller, salesperson, something like that, and they're highly stressed, they're feeling really hungry, and you can tell, and they're pushing. Every time you ask them a question, they take it like it's a objection, and they're on the defensive, and then they're on the offensive. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like a battle. Well, some of you know about that because that's what you've been taught. That's the way you've been doing. It's not comfortable. And I'm just going to suggest to you that there's a better way. And the better way is to take that deep breath. If you like coffee, take a drink of coffee. And go something like this. Step 1, identify your target markets and then pick one person at one company to call. Start with someone that's more easy to get to. And again, even the relaxing where you sit down and you think, okay, of all the people I've talked to or run into or been at the trade show by or been in plants and so forth that I want to make some headway with, what company is that? Who would it be? Well, if you can say, well, I really want to get into XYZ company and I've got something that's perfect for them. And I got this big machine that costs $1 million. I mean, you're selling big capital items, which I've done. This is especially interesting to you because you can't just go in and like that. Shouldn't do that anyway, anywhere. But boy, I'll tell you what, how do you get in there when you're trying to make some inroads and make a new customer and put your product in there with them where you just know it'll be awesome for them if they take it? So you think about it, and then where do you start? You want to go as high in the organization as you can possibly go. And that's the owner, president, CEO. I really recommend that you start there. Now, if you can't figure a way to get in there, I'll be surprised. Because most of the time, through a combination of your LinkedIn, Google research, leads from old trade shows, just sitting around thinking, do your research. How often, and you buyers out there especially know this, how often when you have a good online presence, does a salesperson walk in and ask you, well, tell me about yourself and your company? It's like, what? They've done nothing. Or you get that telephone call. This happens to me so frequently, I can't even understand why people do it. But take the time to do the research. I kind of have an idea. A sales guy wants to call you, thinks you might be a good prospect, but I'm not worth doing some research so when you can call, we can connect. We got some friends, find some common ground. But the only way that's going to happen is if you do some research. And it's all available to you out there between Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and just plain old Google searches. Google search the company, go to About Us, see what they do, see how they market what they do and everything, so that when you get in front of that individual that you'd like to talk to, you're knowledgeable. You're not starting at 0. On a scale of 1 to 10, at least you're starting at 3 or 4. Like shows like you've invested some time in it and you're interested. And then personally in that individual, if you've gotten some background information, that's good. That'll help you to find some common ground. And then one of the things to ask when you're talking to them, just to build rapport, is where'd you grow up? What a great question. Where'd you grow up? And I want to thank Jeffrey Gittimer for that. He's always taught that. And I never had a real good icebreaker rapport building question for in person with people. But when you're having that get together talking and you want to establish some relationship, so where'd you grow up? Well, what was that like? And people, and then just sit and listen, just sit and listen, and you get to know each other and then share, play verbal ping pong. Now, understand that who you're talking to is probably more interested in hearing what they've got to say than what you've got to say. But at the same time, you want to establish some verbal ping pong and go in lightly when it comes to those phone calls and gently talk like a normal person. Oh, what in the heck does that mean? Talk like a normal person. Well, if you Google pitch man or you get on TV late night, now there's channels everywhere. These people are pitching. In fact, in a few weeks, we're going to be talking, don't be a pitch slapper. Don't be a pitch slapper. That's where someone makes a connection and immediately tries to sell you something. Oh my gosh, they don't even know me. Pitch slappers. I don't know if you've ever been to Latin America, but if you walk through the outdoor mercados with all the booths of people buying and selling stuff, so often they're hollering at you, hey, got something, you love it, it's a great price. They don't even know you, have no idea what you need or want. They're just pitch slapping you and seeing if something sticks. And for some of us, that's how we were taught. What I want to tell you is it doesn't build rapport. It doesn't seem respectful, and it turns people off. Now, let's read this together. Talk like a normal person and simply find out if they might be able to use what you're selling. And if in your own mind you've already determined, which I hope you have, that they could use it, you say, hey, I've got an idea. What about this? And be respectful and polite. However, and let's talk about what respectful and polite means and watch those words adult to adult. There's a big word for what I'm talking about now. It's called transactional analysis. And you have two basic relationships when people come together. You have parent and child, okay? Parent and child. And the parent's talking down to the child, and the child is taking this position. Well, in sales and selling, being good customer service and being all about, what's good with the customer and all that doesn't mean that you're on your knees in front of them begging or that you take that child position with your customer. And if you're with someone and they tend to go that way and they want to talk to you that way and work with you that way, then before you're ever going to really get anywhere, you've got to move it to adult where there's mutual respect. And it's not something hard or mean that you do. You just think about your relationships that are adult to adult, not parent child, but where you share equal footing and you know what you know about and you're good at it and the other person respects that. And that can be in whatever you do. And this works not just in business, buying and selling, but this works at home and at play and everywhere else, is that the best place to be is adult to adult. So what position are you taking when you begin to interact? If you walk into an office and it's like, oh, so nice, thank you so much for allowing me to come in here. And it's like, I'm sorry, I apologize for this. And gee, this and that. And you're like real mealy mouthed. It's like, that's not going to be impressive. And they're going to immediately go into this mode. But if you come in and say, wow, this is great. Thank you for having me. Now, away we go. And John, just start out with first name. Just call me Jay. Reason why am I here? I wanted to get to know you. I got some ideas. John, or if it's going to be Mr. Smith, you know the feeling. I mean, sometimes that level of respect makes sense, but most of the time I want to go to first name right off the bat. And I don't ask for permission. I just go unless I feel like, okay, I'm going to have to move this along with the individual. In some different cultures, I'm going to talk about the Asian cultures in particular. There's a lot of that parent-child that's inherent in how they do what they do. And read some of Malcolm Gladwell's books, and you'll find out that some of that causes plane crashes, where the pilot is saying we're going to do this, and the co-pilot is too polite to tell them we're getting ready to run into a mountains. So this can really be detrimental. This is healthy. Now, tell them, where'd you grow up? Okay. If it's like guy says, hey man, glad you came in, or I got 10 minutes. What do you got? Well, great. Then it's like you go right into it out of respect, but it's out of respect, just telling them directly. It's like, forget your sales process, that you were taught in sales school that you have to do this and then this and then this and then this. But the customer says, I need a bottom line. Well, I appreciate the bottom line. We're all busy. Why are you here? Well, I'm here for a couple things. One is I was thinking about your company and what we do, and I've got an idea of how maybe we could work together, see if you're open to it. And the guy goes, let me have it. And then you go into it. It's like, well, we sell this particular machine, and it really works well for people that do the kind of work that you do, and then mention what they do. Now, how do you know that? Well, you've been on the website. You've done some research. You know what they do. And then you say, now, in addition to that, what other things, what am I missing here? And then get them to talk to you back. And get some verbal ping pong going, just talking like normal people, like you would at the restaurant over coffee, about building a fence in your backyard. Talk like normal people. If you find yourself taking a position, if you find yourself taking on a position where you are, what's the best way? Where you're not speaking equally and comfortably with that individual and just having a regular conversation, you're going to have to do something to move out of that into just a normal conversation mode with that individual, and then let them talk. Once you say what it is, and I love it if you can play a little show and tell and say, well, let me show you what I'm talking about on my computer, or actually on your computer. And now this is where I ask permission. Okay, step around here and I'll show you on your computer what we want to look at. Maybe you had a video, take them to your website, show them what you had in mind, what you thought. Now, I hope you're talking to the owner or the president of the company. He's going to say, well, this isn't exactly, my thing that I do. So I get it. I just want to know if you think it might make some sense and be worth looking at, because if it is, then you can tell me where you want me to go from here in terms of introducing it to your company. You want me to just tell you where to go? Let's see. We got some comments here. I love comments. There we go. And Greg Sneed says, hi, Greg. Good to see you. Happy Friday to you too. Glad you're here. So you can talk to people like normal. You don't sound like a pitch man. And if the guy says, I don't see what you're seeing, then ask him some questions. Help him understand why you thought it was a good idea for you two to talk. If you show up to his office without any clue for how you might be able to work together or what it looks like, if I were you, I would open with that. Say, John, we're here together. I think it's a good get to know you session. It might just be networking. And if as a result of our meeting together, we see that we could work together in some particular area, great. If not, hey, worst thing is we made a new friend. I would make sure up front, if he knows you don't know exactly what could come out of this meeting, just open it up. But the more specific one is where you've identified your target market. You're talking to the president, CEO, and owner of the company. You've got an idea. You want to share it with him, what there's going on, and then they can direct you what to do next within their own organization. Do you know how powerful that is? And what's even better is when you go there, if you go visit their plant, it's like, make sure they know up front, hey, before we sit down, would you mind walking through with me? Can we walk through your plant and tell me a little bit about what you've built there? And then while we're there, if I see anything that pertains to what we're going to talk about, I'll point it out. But let's take a walk before we sit down. That way I can also reference things that we talked about or saw in the plant. I can't remember anybody telling me no. Oh no, we're not going to do that. I mean, it can happen. There's times it's, I don't even have time. If they know you're going to show up with your own hard hat, vest, and steel-toed shoes, you mentioned that as well. If I've got my own hard hat, vest, and steel-toed shoes with me, I just put them on, and away we go. Then they'll go, great. Because sometimes the prep for walking through the plant is just like a real pain, and people don't want to do it. So walking around like that, you spot something that you could fix or help, or maybe it's not even what you sell, nothing to do with that, but you have a comment, he'll appreciate it. And you're just chatting about stuff. And it's like, how long you been here? And you get to know each other. By the time you get back to the conference room or his office, there's more rapport and they feel like they know each other better. Gregory says, why people do not do that on LinkedIn is amazing. Instead, it's connect and pitch. I know, it drives me nuts. It's like, there's one thing right now that almost every other day I'm getting a pitch of someone trying to connect through messaging. It's like they copied the script and they're trying to sell me involvement in franchising, I think it is. And the paragraph that they write and everything is like the exact one. And it's like they're pitch slapping me. And I just like, they don't even know me. I don't even know where they came from. And what's even worse is that now, after I've gotten 20 of these, they're using the same script word for word. I don't know where they're coming from. What seminar did they go to that taught them to do this? Holy cow, what a waste. So like I said, in a few weeks, I'm going to have somebody on here. And we're going to talk about don't be a pitch slapper. And we're going to have some fun with that. And, if there's any pitch slappers out there, I'm not loving that. I think we need to go through these steps of building rapport, getting to know people, and making sure it really makes some sense. So please be around for that. Anyway, you want to be successful. And in these times, what does success look like? And I was looking for a graphic, and I'm going to show you what I got. It just caught me. And it's like what people think it looks like and what it really looks like. And I want to give credit. This particular one I got from Accelerate Coaching or Accelerate Consulting Company. As I looked, this same graphic or similar graphics were, a lot of people had this. So it's certainly not unique to me, but it was one of my favorite ones to think about reality versus perception. And in this case, well, that, it's reality. And today, I would encourage you to do the right thing, to be not a pitch slapper, but be the person that goes in there and follows these steps, researches before you contact someone, think about it, and just do it one at a time. If they're worth calling, they're worth investing some time in research. If they have that kind of potential, show interest in them, make a friend, and you'll be glad you did. A lot less stressful and a lot more potential for success. Well, okay, I'm Jay Skinner. This is the Buyers and Sellers Show. I'm so glad you came. If you need anything, you know how to get in touch with me. I'll put the contact information right there. 317-922-7526. That's 317-922-7526. THEJAY Skinner.com. I'm here for you. I'm at your service. If you've got some ideas or thoughts you want to share, hey, let's talk. And I want to thank you again for coming and being on the Buyers and Sellers Show. Have a great day. See you next week. Next Friday is going to be awesome. Look forward to meeting you then. Bye now. 1, 2. There we go. Thanks for coming. See you next week.